I was listening to a guy give a talk once about how he was trying to keep these birds from winding up on an endangered list. So he went around and he raised a bunch of money and he helped that group of birds repopulate. They went on to overpopulate so much that he had to go back around and kill some of the same birds he was trying to save. I thought, what a waste. That guy could have just sent the money to me and I would have put it to good use. I could always use a little help with a couple bags of dog food, a couple new tattoos. And besides, you could put me on that list. I'm the last one of one, last of my kind, mankind, never gonna see another trav like me, kind of me. I'm like that last original KFC Spice original recipe. I'm like the last Canadian goose. I'm like the last guy that knows the director's cut dance moves and alternate ending to Footloose. You could put me on that list. I'm like the last drag from the last cigarette from the last time you promised you'd quit. Receive me like receiving that last orange Reese's Pieces from ET's balled up little fist. You could put me on that list. I'm the last breakup from the last breakup song from Taylor Swift. The last guy to shake, shake, shake it off during the last apocalypse. I'm the last polar bear, the last Care Bear, and the last living T-Rex. I'm the last guy that showed up to the Last Supper and the last guy that will ever pick up a check. You could put me on that list. I'm the fourth member of Migos, even they didn't know exist. I'm the last person Mr. Miyagi taught how to crane kick. I'm the last cherry blossom to blossom on a cherry blossom tree. I'm Beethoven's 7th, 8th, and 9th Symphony. I'm Lennon's last lyric, crazy horse's spirit, the owner of my own scene and king's dream, a proud keeper of my sister Tessa's memory, a constant reminder they only made one of me. You could put me on that list. I'm the last of my kind. The last of my kind. I'm the last time the wind chose to chime. The last time Charles Bukowski chose to rhyme. I'm the last time your significant other told you nothing wrong and they're fine. I'm the last of my kind. You could put me on that list. I'm the last sunrise, the last sunset, the last snowfall, the last full moon. I'm the last time you said goodbye to someone, the last time you didn't know it was going to be the last time you ever got to say goodbye to that someone. I'm the last of my kind. Last of my kind. Oh wait, get this, one of a kind, mind blown. You're the last you like you. Last you like you that'll ever pass through, never be another you like you kind of you. Not like you, not like this. You need to be on that list. You're the last of your kind. That's something worth being proud of, something worth rolling your shoulders back a bit about. That's something worth taking care of. Something that makes me feel honored and privileged to share this time in this space with you. You're endangered. Don't ever forget that. My name is Travis Jacobs. I'm a storyteller. I teach storytelling. I like to listen to other people's stories. And that one that I wrote is called Endangered Human. Now, while we do this, we're going to do this Mr. Rogers style because we're going to go for a quick walk together here, if you don't mind, because I have red hair and you can't leave redheads out in the sun too long because it doesn't work well. When I say that I'm a storyteller, I used to say that I'm a writer, but I don't say that anymore because I didn't realize until I started telling people that I was a writer that people don't actually believe that people do that. I'm going to go inside my fort here, come along. When you tell people you're a writer, even if you are, there's like this accusatory Q&A that happens after that. It's the only profession I've found where they want proof that you actually do it. If you tell somebody you're a surgeon, they don't ask for proof of x-rays or surgeries you've done. If you're a dentist, nobody says, well, do you have any x-rays of any molars that you possibly did? And if I say I'm a writer, people instantly say, oh, well, have you written anything that I know? Evidently, I haven't, because if I had, then you would, well, what do you write about? And then this is the next one that always gets everybody. So I usually say I write all sorts of stories. And then if I say poetry, they're like, oh, you write poems? Like love poems to girls and crap? Yes. Some days I write love poems and some days I do write crap. And you can make a living doing that? Some people do. I try to. But I know you can stay alive doing that. I know you can stay alive writing. For years, I wrote as a hobby, and I tried to make it as a profession. And then I found a few years back that I could also use writing to help me stay alive. The writing could help me find the healing that I was looking for. We started this organization called TNT Healing. We just took the first letter of my name and the first letter of my sister Tessa's name. That's where we came with TNT, and then the word healing. And I know the word healing means a lot of different things to different people. And I don't want to stop using the word, but I want to start explaining the word and what it means with our organization, because there's so many different people who have things that they need to heal from, but I don't think they're getting the acknowledgement of the level of their wounds that they need. I don't want people to think that I'm saying that we're going to heal all your wounds. And I also want people to realize that we recognize that some people show up with very deep wounds and have been wounded from by the time that they were born, and they have been in a season of wounding. And some people have occasional seasons, and some people that season doesn't ever seem to end. And we don't ever seem to take a look at how do we help the different people with different wounds and different levels of wounds. We talk about mind, body, spirit like a lot of people do in our organization. We say mind, body, spirit. Let's look at the whole human. But if we looked at it physically, if I took 3 different people to a doctor and I said, this person sitting in the emergency room, they have a broken leg. This person sitting right next to them, they have a broken leg, and it's broken in the same spot for the last 6 years straight. And then we have this person sitting next to them, and they have every bone in their body broken. It's a different approach. Now, I know some people claim that they can do this healing for the whole human, and in a way that is it's empty promises. And I wanted to talk about that just for a second, because when I started seeking the healing that I need, and I spent time and I spent money with people like that, it was very frustrating, and it made me lose hope. My sister and I talked about it often, that we wanted to find different places that we could find different kinds of healing for what we had going through and what we had gone through. And there is no all-encompassing healing. There are different places that offer different tools, and each person is different. We can use some of the same things to find the healing that we need, and that's why we use writing, because writing might not be your end art of expressing yourself. It might not be the thing where you find a large amount of healing, but writing can help you find the healing that you're looking for. And that's why we chose that avenue. When we look at wounds and the level of wounds, a lot of times people don't want to say that there's some that are deeper than others, because they feel like it minimizes the other person. But I feel like it minimizes the fact of what people have gone through. In early 2000, I had a level of depression that I haven't shared with a lot of people, but in early 2000, had gotten to a point where I couldn't physically get myself to the shower. I couldn't find the energy, the strength to even get in the shower, to the point where I had started to develop sores on my body from not showering. The sores. And when I say that, some people would find it maybe gross. And then other people listening right now, I know you understand exactly what I'm talking about. And it's not gross. It's just where we were or where we are. And then I believe there's other people who have it worse than I did or do. And I want to acknowledge everybody and make this an inclusive healing session, where I'm going to give you a few things that each person can take at the level that they're at, and not make any false claims or false promises. But I do want to give you what we found has worked for us and for other people, to help make some of those wounds not better but bearable, and find different ways to express yourself and connect with where you're at with other humans who are experiencing the exact same thing. When I started going to people for help, when I started going to professionals for help, it was very frustrating when I went to different places and different organizations, and the only thing they gave me was a long list of diagnoses. I knew what I was going through. I didn't need somebody to give it a title and then see, this is what you have because it matches all these. Awareness without action is only more anxiety. Maybe it helps for some people to name what it is. Okay, so I've got depression, anxiety, PTSD, dissociation disorder episodes. Okay, addiction, let's throw that in there. I got that. What can I do? And what can you do to help me? What can you give me that you've learned? I like writing and living. Well, I just said awareness. Awareness without action creates more anxiety. Writing, if you want to write a good story, 3 basic things: awareness, practice, and courage. I hope you really like that graphic. It's where I spent my entire budget, was on graphics. So that graphic is very expensive. Awareness, practice, and courage. It will help you write a good story. And if you're trying to live a good story, live a story that you can feel good about and find some healing, it's 3 words that I found that apply for me in a lot of different areas. And I'm going to show you how to use them. We've taught different versions of this writing class to different organizations, veterans organizations, in prisons and schools, and we've partnered with people like NAMI who help people find the healing that they're seeking. So I'm going to give you a few of them, and these are going to be ones that every human can relate to. I'm going to borrow some wisdom from my buddy Ernest Hemingway. And Hemingway talked about the fact that we all have a certain amount of juice, a certain amount of power and energy and creativity that we can put out into the world every day, not just for our art, but also for our life. When there's certain things that will deplete us of juice, and we only get a certain amount every day. So we have to be aware that we only have a certain amount every day, and then the next day we're gonna get another cup of juice to use to face things, to work through things, to enjoy things. All those things require juice. And he would talk about the fact that there are certain things that also deplete us of juice. So if I'm going through a life problem, if I'm going through even change, if I'm, say you're buying a house or selling a house, or say you're going through physical pain depletes us of juice. All those things, addictions, all those things, juice depleters. So we have to be aware that there's this thing that we're working with called juice, or you can name it whatever you want. But when you're aware of the fact that there's juice, then there's certain things that I can do to not waste my juice. I can make sure that I'm not putting my juice towards things and towards people that I don't want to use it or waste it on. And then there's also ways that I can reclaim my juice. I wasn't aware, practicing awareness, the fact that I was using up a lot of my juice on things that were not helping me, they were not beneficial to me. So I'm gonna have you do a quick, little imagery, imagination exercise. It's gonna require very little juice, but I promise you what I'm gonna trade you in return for the juice that you use in these short writing exercises, you don't need paper for. I promise that they will pay off big time. So I need you to do some imagination real quick. And if you want to use paper, you can. If you've got paper, but your mind will do just fine. Your mind's way more than capable of doing this. I'm just going to have you have your mind pick a bird. Pick any kind of bird. See the bird. Just have a vision of the bird in your mind and hold it here. If you got your bird, then what I want you to do is go ahead and change the color of that bird. Like if the bird would normally be gray, turn it to purple. If the bird would normally be purple, change it to khaki and put flames on it. Have the image of your bird, change the color of that bird. And then I want you to take the bird in your mind and place it in an environment where you can just have that bird stay while we work on the other stuff. So if you've got some nature that you've been to sometime in your life, or a picture or movie you've seen, and you can put the bird there and leave it there for now. Or you can pick any one of these trees behind me and you can put your bird right there if you would like, or right up there, wherever your bird would like to stay for a minute. Okay, so we're gonna leave that bird there and we're gonna come back to it in a little bit. Whatever bird you picked was perfect. The first bird that came to your mind was exactly the one that will help you with this exercise. The second thing that we're gonna do with this juice exercise is I'm gonna have your mind show you 3 times in your life that you were sold something, that somebody came into your door to door, or you were at a car dealership or at work, or sometimes somebody tried to sell you something. Maybe they called you over the phone. The first 3 of those times that come to your mind are the right ones. And if you have paper, you can write it down. If you don't, you just see those images of somebody trying to sell you something. A lot of people have cookies as one of the first things, because everybody's been sold cookies or popcorn, or everybody's had somebody come to their house and try to sell an alarm system. Most people have, or a $78,000 vacuum, because you need a $78,000 vacuum, because if you don't vacuum your floor with a $78,000 vacuum and people come over and you've only used a $40,000 vacuum, what are they gonna think of you? What are they gonna think? So you gotta get the vacuum. Or sometimes they'll tell you that, like, if they're trying to sell you the security system, they'll be like, your neighbor's already signed up. They're gonna have the security system and you don't. So whichever 3 are perfect. I came up with this writing exercise when a kid came to my house one day and he was going door to door selling pickles. And it wasn't with a pickle company. He had taken a big jar of pickles, opened it, individually bagged each pickle, which is smart, and was selling them for like 75 cents a piece, something like that. Each pickle was, so he's gonna make some money, but pickles is a hard sell. I mean, I don't normally buy bagged pickles door to door. It's not a common thing, but that day I saw it and I'm like, that's a hard sell, kid. Here's some money. You can keep the pickles, but I appreciate it. And I was thinking about that and that experience, and the experience of being sold stuff, and how it related to a person I found who he had helped me see that I was being sold stuff in my mind every day. This man's name was Gary, and he has a program called Pathway to Happiness. And I was having a hard time with my thoughts. I was having a hard time keeping them under control because they were happening so fast. And I realized that when I started showing up for my healing, other people did too. When I showed up for myself, other people showed up for me, like Gary. Similar to when I was using drugs and alcohol, I had a lot of dealers show up, a lot of drug dealers show up because they wanted my money. And I had a lot of friends who did drugs. And when I started seeking out healing, when I started seeking out my healing, I found other healers. They showed up to give me healing, to bring me new medicine. And I found other people seeking out their healing. Gary is one of those people. And he showed me that my thoughts were bringing me these storylines every single day, like a pickle salesman. And then I would need to start practicing awareness and the courage to face these belief systems. Again, awareness, practice, and courage. The writing exercise that Gary had me practice for a long period of time was tracking my thoughts. He said, this is where the hunted becomes the hunter. We are no longer going to be hunted by our thoughts. We are actively going to pursue them. And then he'd always say, happy hunting, Travis. Happy hunting. So that's an exercise that you can do. If you would like to start that, that's one that you can do. I'm going to show you right now the simple one that I know will work for everyone no matter where you're at, because every human has these storylines that play for them. Every human, it makes you human to have these, because I know every single person has these two in particular. And if we would stop believing these storylines, then we would be able to free up some juice to believe some things that are true. That was the other wisdom that was given to me by Gary, was he said, Travis, it's time for you to only believe things that are true. And just like in storytelling, at the beginning of some movies, it says, based on a true story. Some of my beliefs and thoughts were only based on a true story. They weren't 100% true. I'm going to give you some, just like this door-to-door pickle sales kid, that he came to the door, he rang the doorbell, and he tried to sell me the pickles. Every day, all day long, your mind is giving you thoughts and stories, and attached to those stories are emotions. You can tell when you bought them is when you feel the emotions in your body. And most of us replay them all day. When people come to my class and they say, I'm not really a storyteller or a writer, I tell everyone, yes, you are. And we're going to show you how on paper that your mind has been doing it, whether you're aware of it or not. But we're going to practice some awareness and see that we have an active storyteller in our mind, and we can take control of that pen and write our own stories, and no longer, like Gary said, be the one hunted by these storylines. We become the hunter and actively participate in them. A belief system that everyone has about themselves is, there is something about the way that you look that is wrong. There is something about the way that you look that is wrong. Everybody has that thought in their mind in some way. There is something about your body that you believe is not good, not right, not attractive, not acceptable. Everybody has it. It could have come from somewhere. It could have come from somebody saying it to you when you were a kid. Some people have had horrible things said to them, even by their own parents, or siblings, or in school, or in a relationship, by somebody they don't even know. Some people have had it from all of those people. And it became a storyline in your mind that you've been carrying. Some people carry these their entire lives without ever being freed up from them. Sometimes you don't even have to have it said to you. Sometimes there might be something about you, the way that you look, and you saw somebody else rejected or picked on for the exact same thing that you have, or the same way that you look. It could be on TV, it could be in person, and then you could start this storyline that that same thing is similar in you and that thing is wrong. The average person, they say the average person criticizes themselves at least 8 times a day. At least 8 times a day. That's a storyline that doesn't serve you well at all. That story does nothing for you other than waste your time and your energy believing that, shaming you for something, and it does nothing for you. You don't have to believe that story anymore. It's not a good story because it's not good for you. It's not a good story, so it's not good for you. You can rewrite a new story for yourself. I found another guy by the name, or he found me, or however that works. His name was Gary. I never noticed their names rhymed before, Gary and Larry. But so Gary was out of Canada, and Gary had this cool accent. It was Irish and Canadian, and I would call him, and he'd be like, "Oh, Travis, how are you? I know it's you. You're the only one who calls me from the States. Let me ask you, Travis, how have you been talking to yourself lately? The inside thoughts, those stories, what are they saying? And also, the ones that come out of your mouth, are you saying anything worth hearing to yourself?" And I wasn't. Most people don't. You've probably heard of self-talk, but most people don't do it. And a lot of times it just doesn't resonate because it's not the things that we really need to heal, or we didn't practice it. Awareness, practice, courage. We didn't practice it enough. Whatever thing that is negative that plays in your mind about the way that you look, I would encourage you sometime to write those down, take them to a fire, and burn them. Just as a symbolic way that you don't want to keep listening to that story anymore. And there's going to have to be some story that plays. The mind is going to play a story. So we might as well pick which one it's going to play. That's a loud story driving by. My friend Gary and my friend Larry both would have the same similar assignments. Larry told me to come up with things that I needed to hear out loud. What do you need to hear? What would be good for you to hear? Say those things out loud to yourself, but not just today, on a regular basis. If you're gonna say in here at least 8 times a day negative things to yourself, record yourself on your phone. Most phones have audio recording. Record yourself on there saying 4 or 5 nice things about yourself, true things about yourself, positive things about yourself, good stories that will serve you in a good way. Listen to them when you're on your way to wherever you go, when you're driving. Listen to them in the morning and at night. And see how that changes the energy and the juice in your story by listening to real good stories about yourself. There's another one that my friend Denny gave me. Denny, that writing that I did at the beginning, Endangered Human, that stemmed from an exercise that came from my friend Denny. I wound up in Denny's office, a very under-decorated office. Denny's a very large man with a very large voice, a very large beard, and very under-decorated office. I like to point that out because it was one of those offices where the only picture hanging in there I think probably came with the office. But Denny told me a few things that, well, he's told me a lot of things, but these few off the bat I'd never heard before. One was, he said, paper never lies. He wanted me to write my life story down so he could look at it and we could look at it together, and he could show me some stuff that was happening that I really didn't want to admit that was true. So I wrote out what I did all day, every day for a couple weeks. And he showed me, he said, it looks like the truth is that there's never any downtime for your body. That there's always drugs and alcohol in it. And he didn't shame me for it. He said, that just makes you human. He had already heard a little bit of my story, so he said, you know, it makes sense. How could you not completely want to numb yourself? You just found something that you thought would work, but it's not working for you, because he showed me also on the paper that it was causing me all sorts of problems, and it was not allowing me to be the person that I wanted to be and live the story that I wanted, and it was also going to more than likely end my story early, when it didn't have to be that way. He told me my story was very similar to his story, and if I wanted to walk that road, he would show me how to walk it. I was interested in that, but I wasn't sure that I could do it. He knew that because he had already walked this story. He knew what was already going on in here and in here. He knew the stories. When he saw the stories on paper, you know the stories that are playing in here and in here. When you lived it, you're familiar with what those people are facing, what the storylines in their minds are. And he told me that I was going to need to find something in myself worth fighting for. He knew that I couldn't see it. He knew that I didn't love myself. He said, I know that you don't love yourself. I know that you probably don't even like yourself. And that's how I eventually ended up writing that Endangered poem. Because I had to go on this journey of trying to figure out, how do I like myself? How do I figure out how to do that? Why should I like myself? Why should I love myself? What is there about me that's worth fighting for? He said, once you find those things, once you find something worth fighting for, it changes everything. He told me, I didn't know you could do this. He told me that he believed in me and I was able to borrow his beliefs. I could borrow his belief in me until I could find it for myself. I could have the love that he had for me, and then I would eventually be able to find it for myself. And then he said I would be able to give it away to other people too. That he would love me until I could love myself, and he would believe in me. And eventually I would be able to find that belief in myself. Beliefs are very important. We're going to do a little bit more on beliefs, but first I want to talk about strength. Because nobody told me this or gave me a heads up on this. Like, I wasn't given a heads up on the fact that I was going to need to do a lot of healing. I wasn't given a heads up that I was going to need to face some things and it wasn't going to feel the way that I thought it was going to feel. When I was going to set out to get sober, I think I did what a lot of people did. Like, I thought it was going to be this cool story like the movies I had seen, and I was going to start training, and I was going to get up early and eat raw eggs, and somebody was going to play some dun 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 instrumental underneath of me, and I would have a shiny body with all these muscles, and it would feel strong. Nobody told me that strength does not feel strong. People told me what I was doing was strong. They told me I was strong. It didn't feel like strength. It didn't feel like strength at all. It felt like defeat. Oh, Trav, you're so strong. You've probably heard it, and you don't feel strong. You don't feel strong at all. In May 2018, my sister Tessa was out for a walk. She is one of the strongest humans I've ever met in my life. She was out for a walk, and she was killed by a distracted driver. Worst day of my life. So many worse days following that. A lot of people said, "You're so strong, Travis." It doesn't feel like strength. It feels like exhaustion and pain and sadness and weariness and depression and anxiety reappeared for me. It felt horrible. It doesn't feel strong. I don't feel strong. I want to feel strong. Let me do it in a physical sense. Let's take a look at somebody who is physically strong and what physical strength looks like, but what it actually feels like. This is Jonah. Jonah Leo in the picture there on the right. You can tell by the picture that Jonah and this other gentleman and I all have the same hairstyle. But only one of us can lift mass amounts of weight. Jonah is a 4-time world champion in moving massive amounts of weight that seems to be unattainable, inhuman, that kind of strength. He can lift his best bench press, 881 pounds. Imagine laying on a small bench and pushing this cold metal bar and lifting 881 pounds and having it hover above your face and your throat and your chest. And we're watching, and I called him and I said, Jonah, what does that feel like? What do you feel like? Because it looks like, what does it feel like that you're gonna move 881 pounds and it's hovering over you? What does that feel like? And he said, pressure. It feels like an insane amount of pressure and strain. And I said, does it feel strong? He said, no, it doesn't feel like you would think strong feels. I said, well, afterwards, after you take 881 pounds over your face and you bring it down and you push it back up over your chest, 881 pounds, do you feel strong after you're done? And he said, no. And you feel exhausted. When people go through extremely traumatic times in their life, and they continue to keep walking on this journey, it feels like strain, it feels like pain, and then it feels like exhaustion. And we don't get the opportunities to slow down long enough to heal. Nobody came to you, probably more than likely as a kid, and said, people should not have been treating you this way. I bet that feels like an ungodly amount of pressure to be a little kid in this world who should only be concerned with playing. And you have all this pressure on your little shoulders. You should not have to carry that. And when you got into school, nobody came to you probably and said nobody should be talking to you like that, treating like you that, doing those things to you. You shouldn't have had to seen what you've seen, had to do what you had to do in order to survive. That shouldn't be. That's too much pressure for a human, even as an adult. Nobody probably came to you and said that. They should have come to you and said, the amount of drugs you have to put in your body in order to bear the weight that it takes for you to get out of bed every day and do what's required of you to participate in this world. My God. That's strain. And then to only be the strain and then not feel strong in it and just the exhaustion. People don't come to us and say, you know what? I'm sorry that happened. I want to support you in any way that I can support you. How can I help you in that? How can I help you with that weight? And then how can I help you in this time where you have all this exhaustion to heal up? I asked Jonah, I said, what feels strong for you then? Because you're obviously strong. He said, when things are easy. I mean, imagine a guy who can lift 881 pounds, put 250 pounds on there. He said, there I feel strong. We need to give people the opportunities, and we need to create those opportunities for ourselves where we can find them so we can feel strength even while there's pressure happening. And it doesn't come by giving people a book to read. It doesn't come in those types of ways. It doesn't come in making them do more stuff, more things, more work. It comes in ways that might sound kind of strange, but they're the ways that were given to me that I want to show you that worked. I'm going to give you a list of these 2 things that during the most pain-filled, pressure-filled moments of my life helped me find air through these 2 practices. 2 things. The first one, and I didn't like either of these when they were given to me. I want you to know that if it looks like my mouth is very punchable when I say these things, but trust me, they worked. I mostly even did them just to try to prove the 2 people wrong who shared them with me that they wouldn't work, but they were right. The first one was I was told after losing my sister, and as the court date for the person responsible for taking her life got closer, and I felt like I was going to completely fall apart as a human, one of my mentors told me that he wanted me to focus on playing as much as I possibly could. And I did not like to hear that, because I thought, how do I have time to play right now when everything sucks so bad? I don't even know what playing is. And he said, well, that's normal because most adults stop playing by the time they're 30. They don't even know what play is anymore. And I said, yeah, I don't have any clue what play would even be for me at this point. And he said, what I needed to do until that time we talked, the next time we talked, is he wanted me to find one thing that I could have every day for a short window of time that would be play. And he gave me the advice that he had to do the same thing, and he said sometimes it helps to hop on Google to figure it out. So that's what I did, is I hopped on Google, and he also gave me some rules of the play, which kind of sounds funny that there's rules to play. He said the rules are there so I don't wreck it, because I could turn the play into more pressure and more expectations and wreck it altogether if I didn't follow the rules. He said that there was supposed to be, when I was find out what my play was, that there was supposed to be no title involved for me. So I was not supposed to be a dad. I was not supposed to be a significant other. I was not supposed to be a son or no connection to anyone other human, not even a dog. Like I wasn't even supposed to be a dog owner, because I thought, I'll go play frisbee with my dog, but there's still responsibility with my dog when I walk him, but there can be no responsibility to anyone else but myself. It's only for me, about me, with me. That was the first rule, and it was a hard rule to follow. And he was right. I didn't have anything like that in my life. He said I also, when I figured out what this play was, I couldn't figure out a way to try to get good at it. No reading books on it to improve myself, no watching YouTube videos to get better at it, none of that. No practicing here, no practicing to get better here. That was part of the rule. The other rule that came along with it was I couldn't figure out how to monetize it. I couldn't say, you know what, I'm pretty good at this. Maybe I could turn it into a side hustle, which a lot of stuff nowadays is hustle, hustle, grind, grind, come up with some side hustles. I couldn't do that with this. And I also couldn't compete in whatever the play was. Like if I got good at it or I wanted to get good at it and get better, I couldn't compete against anybody else in it. It was just supposed to be about play. I thought those would be pretty easy to follow. I did some Googling to figure out what can be playful and fun for an adult, and I settled on, I was gonna get a recurve bow, the old school kind of bow and arrow, and that's what I went to go and buy. So I went to go buy this recurve bow, and the guy there said, would you like to sign up for our league so you can practice and get better at it? And I said, no, thank you. And he said, well, we also have flyers if you would like to be in the tournament that are coming up in a couple months. And I said, no, thank you to that. And when I got in the truck, I thought about it, and I was like, you know what, that's funny that those rules. I had done that with every hobby that I had and everything that I enjoyed doing for fun. As I got older, I put all those rules, I took all the rules out, and I only had expectations on the play. I put more pressure on the play, which put more pressure on what I was going through and made it not play at all, and didn't allow it to do what it could do in my life. Which was, I set an alarm every day to go outside in my backyard and shoot this bow for 10 minutes a day. And I had a target there, but I wasn't trying to hit a bullseye. There was all sorts of holes in my fence to prove that I was just out there playing. And in the beginning, it felt like a waste of time. It felt like a waste of 10 minutes that I could have been putting towards something else, like who knows what else my mind was trying to tell me to do with it. But then as the days went on, I actually enjoyed it more and more, and I started to look forward to it. And that 10 minutes a day became like one of those 10-minute breaks they used to call at the swimming pool. If you had those when you were a kid and you're swimming, and so you could get out and rest. And the 10-minute break, they'll blow the whistle. Every kid freaked out and didn't like it, and the 10 minutes went on forever. They stopped doing those for us in life, and we need to add those to our own life. 10-minute break. It was just a 10 minutes of play every day. And for most people, when hard times happen and change happens, and then really difficult things happen, the first thing that will go out of your life is play. Are those things that are supposed to give you an opportunity to have a 10-minute break. That was the first one, play. The second one was laughter. And I didn't like that assignment either. I did not like being told that I needed to laugh more after losing my sister. When the person that I laughed more with than anybody else on this planet was gone, I did not want to be told that I needed to find ways to laugh. Again, I was given the assignment to find time to laugh. I didn't know before that you could schedule time to laugh. So I, again, hopped online and researched what are the funniest TV series ever, what are the funniest movies ever, what are the funniest videos ever made. And along with my kid, we sat down every night, and I didn't enjoy it at first at all. I thought it was really a waste of time again, and a dumb idea. And slowly we started, getting seasons of different shows, and we would watch an hour every night. And then I noticed as the weeks went on, we would start laughing again. And then we would laugh longer. So some nights we would get food, and the rest of the night we would just watch funny stuff. And some whole weekends we would just spend watching funny stuff. Laughter will create air for you to breathe when you're under pressure. Viktor Frankl said something to the effect of humor being one of the soul's weapons. It is something that we can use when we're facing the pressure, is to find ways to play and find ways to laugh. And those two things will help create spaces for us to face whatever we're facing, so we don't completely fall apart under the pressure. And we can create those ourselves. If I don't have those on paper, they're more than likely not going to happen. If I don't have them, see them on my week that they're going to be there, that will always be the first thing that goes for me. The play and the laughter, and two things that are very important in a human journey. I would encourage you to put those two things on your schedule, whether you're in a strength season or a pressure season. Put those two things on there and see how they work for you. I told you that I would give you 2 writing exercises to help you reclaim juice, the wasted juice with the storylines of the mind. The first one we did was our body image, the things about our body that we believe, the good stories that weren't good, that didn't do anything good for us. And the second one we're going to do right now too. But first I want you to do something for that bird. Let's do a little Mr. Rogers walk here, because I'm getting a little anxious sitting still. So the first one was the body image one, and we're going to do another one. But what I want to do first is I want to return to that bird that you put in an environment. You put that bird in the environment, the bird that I had you change the color of it, and you put that bird in an environment. And what I want you to do is return to that bird, like if you put it in one of these trees, or if you put it in an environment that you've seen, give that bird food. Like put some kind of food in front of that bird, just using the imagery of your mind. See the color that you made the bird, and whatever you think that bird would like to eat, put that in front of the bird. And then I also want you to do one more. I want you to put a snack that you liked as a kid, something that you liked to eat when you were a kid. It can be a bag of Cheetos, that's what I would give my bird, or Funyuns, or maybe something that somebody in your family made, maybe some kind of cinnamon rolls your grandma made, or Special K bars, Little Debbie snacks. Put those in front of the bird too. Give that bird that kind of snack, along with what you think it would actually eat. And we're going to return to that bird in a minute. You can leave it in its environment in your mind with that food. And what we're going to do now with the second exercise to help reclaim juice is, we did the body image, and now we're going to do the image that other people have of us. My friend Denny showed me this one too, that I was preoccupied with the thought of what other people thought of me. And even though a lot of people claim, I don't care what anybody thinks of, all humans care what other people think of them. For most of us, it starts off when we're young, seeking the approval of a parent. If the parent wasn't there, sometimes we still seek that parent or both parents' approval, even though we don't know them anymore. Sometimes people try to win the approval of somebody who's passed away. It's not even possible anymore. They're not even physically here anymore. And we're still preoccupied with winning their approval. It drives our motivation to do different things, to constantly win that approval. And it's a waste of juice that a lot of us never identify and then move away from. Then he told me what it was like was going to a hardware store and trying to buy an ice cream cone. He said they just don't sell them there. And a lot of us put this imaginary approval in other people's hands, and it doesn't do anything for us except for waste our juice. A lot of people aren't aware that they dress a certain way for people, they act a certain way for people. And when we stop doing that, we can reclaim that juice and we can use it for other things. So I would encourage you to practice awareness again. And maybe you already know who that person is. Most people know who it is. For some of us, that person, we don't even know them personally. It could be somebody that you idolize. It could be somebody that you would like to meet. It could be your personal hero. And everything you do is never good enough for them. And I like what Gary said. Most of us chase this thought of being good enough. But he said, what really is a good enough? What is that? It makes sense that if we borrow so many people's beliefs that aren't really ours about ourselves, like you show up in a family that's maybe broken and they give you certain beliefs about yourself, or you go in relationships with certain people and they give you beliefs about yourself, and we carry around these beliefs in our mind, and those stories play for so long that we start to believe them. And I don't know why it doesn't make sense that we can't use that same imagery and creativity to believe other stories. Believe stories about ourselves that are good and real and true. Maybe question some of those beliefs. Like Denny said, that I could borrow his belief in me and the love that he had for me until I could find it for myself. Why not believe beliefs that serve us and our story well? Beliefs are a wild thing because we're mostly not aware of them, or how ingrained they are, or how many were given to us or lent to us. I'll share you the earliest recognition, or my first awareness of beliefs was, well, before I hop into that, let's talk about these cicadas, because these bugs used to drive me nuts. And then I figured I had to figure out a way to coexist with them because the noise distracted me so much. And I looked up the spiritual significance of a cicada. And the cicada goes through its transformation, not in a cocoon. It doesn't go away to transform. It does it out in the open. That's the thing that made me love that bug and that noise, is I don't have to go away to change. I don't have to go away at all. I can do it right out in the open, just like the cicada does. I'm not sure if he's gonna keep singing for us or not, but it's got a little sidetracked. Belief systems, when I was aware that they can betray me, my grandparents lived in a town called Freeborn, Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes, and they had a lake right by their house there. And we were in my grandparents' basement, and me and my brother wrestling around, and my brother evidently got mad at me, probably because I was beating him or something like that. And he looked at me and he said, "Travis, you know, wrestling, the wrestling that you love, that you watch on TV, all those wrestlers, you know that's not real, right?" What? I was so mad. I went to get my dad and I was like, "Tell Chad what's up, that wrestling's real." And I could tell by the look on my dad's face, it wasn't real. I couldn't believe it. I know it's kind of funny, but at the time, I had invested so much in these people. I had invested so much of my time and my money. I had all the action figures. I had the rings, and I had a coat. I wore a coat around all the time. I wore that coat everywhere. I believed it was real. It was real to me. They were real to me. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and George the Animal Steel and Junkyard Dog, all those people were my people. They were real people. And in a second, I was told that everything that I believed for years, that I've spent so much time believing, was not true. I cried about it for a long time, because I can't go on believing the same thing anymore. I'm aware, I have this awareness that they are not what I thought that they were. The storylines that I invested so much time in were not real. Every human in every culture has a lot of beliefs that waste our time and our energy and our juice that we could be putting towards other things. They affect so much of us in so many ways that a lot of us never get to actually experience our actual human self, because we're handed beliefs as soon as we show up. There's a family role, and sometimes that family system is broken, and we're given a broken role, and we're supposed to live this broken role, and it's not us. And we're putting in broken relationships with broken people, and we're giving more broken information, and we're living out of broken stories. So if I've believed broken storylines about my life, and I've replayed those storylines for so long, and I become aware that they're not true and they're not real, then why can't I use that same creativity that got out of control to start believing real stories? Start borrowing beliefs from other people. Borrow the belief and love that other people had for me to help me change. We can do that. That's a possibility. I'm gonna show a real quick example of the beliefs, and then also on a daily way how we can take a look at these beliefs, because not only do we have past ones to address, we have ones that show up every day. The ones that are new, that are handed to us daily, we can stay ahead of them. There's a field behind me. This is a bean field back there. And Earl Nightingale has a talk called The Greatest Secret. And he talks about how the mind is like a field, and it's gonna grow something. Every day there's new storylines being planted. Once you practice awareness and see which ones are coming in, you can remove them faster the quicker you identify them. It's a lot easier to flick a seed than it is to dynamite a stump. So that's the daily practice. The daily awareness practice is, what are the new storylines that are being fed to me that are not good stories to help me live my best story? The deep beliefs. It's all gonna revolve around awareness, practice, and courage. The courage to take a look at beliefs, the awareness that they're there, and practice changing them. The ones that don't serve us in our story well anymore. Here's a story. This is a true story. I was in a prison doing a poetry class, doing some poetry with some people who are experiencing being incarcerated. I went in with a really wise gentleman by the name of Lawrence, and then another person from another country came along with us. They were going to bring a program of theirs into the prison eventually, is what their goal was, and they wanted to see what we were going to do while we were in there and how it worked. And we went to a prison in the morning and did some poetry, and everybody shared poetry, and we wrote poetry, and then we went and ate. We had lunch, and we had another prison that we were going to go to in the afternoon. And while we're having lunch, we're all having a conversation, and it wound up on beliefs, storytelling and beliefs. I can talk about those for a long time. And Lawrence was asking each of us what we thought, and she started to tear up. She started to get tears in her eyes, and she said, I feel absolutely horrible because I believed going in there, I was afraid of those guys. I only knew what I had been shown and what I had been told. I had been told to be careful, and I had also watched movies and documentaries and TV shows about people in prison and what they're like. And she said, I thought it was going to be very uncomfortable. And she said, they were incredibly nice. It moved her so much, she was moved to tears, that the fact that she was so wrong in this belief, and that's what beliefs bring, is judgment on ourselves and other people. And she said, I felt like I need to go and tell everybody I know that there are people who are incarcerated who are great people, who are beautiful human beings. And that's a true story. That's the true story. The ones that they like to make a lot of money off of on TV, those are based on a true story. Those are pieces of a story, but they are not the entire story of everyone who is incarcerated. And that's just me getting wound up for a second. So her and I kept talking beliefs. I said, well, let's look at some other beliefs. I said, I had noticed that she was looking at my tattoos during the day, and I said, and I had known the answer already because I had heard some things about where she grew up. And I said, do you like my tattoos? And she said, yeah. And I said, would you get one? Would you like to get a tattoo? And she said, I would like one, but it would have to be small and be able to be hidden. And I said, is it because of like somebody like me in your culture where you live? If I came there to visit, I had heard that I wouldn't be able to swim in a public pool. And she said, that's right. You wouldn't be able to because of your tattoo. So I would have to wear gloves. I would have to wear a snowmobile suit in the pool. Like I would have this much showing of myself for it to be okay. I would not be allowed to go in and swim and take my shirt off and it wouldn't work. And I said, but that doesn't mean there's something wrong with your culture. It just means that a belief system that's not a good belief system keeps getting passed on without it being challenged. The belief is that someone like me with tattoos is a bad person, that I'm dangerous, that anybody is dangerous. That might be based on a true story, but it's not the whole story. It's not the true story. And I said, it happens everywhere. Every culture has these different belief systems that keep getting passed on. I said, so I would go to where you grew up, and I would not be able to swim because of my tattoos. But I said, I have also heard, is it true that if I could go there and swim in a public pool and I could be naked, then that's cool? And she said, yeah, some people do that, and that's fine. And I said, see, that's the difference, where if you would go where I grew up, you can have tattoos, but you need to have a swimsuit. All the party parts need to be covered up. So just the difference of belief systems passed on through culture. And when we look at it and step back, if you grew up in a place where you had to wear a swimsuit, then the tattoo thing sounded ridiculous to you. If you grew up in the tattoo place, then the swimsuit thing, then why? One culture thinks tattoos are dangerous, another culture thinks nudity is dangerous. Belief systems. Creativity out of control. It's imaginary. It's pretend. But people protect it like it's truth. And it wastes time, and it brings judgment towards other people and ourselves. These kind of beliefs keep us from other people, from hearing their stories because of preconceived beliefs. They keep me from expressing my story because I have this belief that I need to edit certain parts of myself for people to accept me. Let's look at another real quick one. In some cultures, if a woman is on her cycle or period, just go with me here, I know. If she's on, okay, in one culture, she's considered unclean. You go over here to another culture, she's considered incredibly powerful at that time. Incredibly powerful. So powerful she will overpower everything. Unclean, same event happening, same event. Unclean, stay away from everybody. So powerful. Beyond power. Ultimate power. Same event, two different belief systems. People treated differently because of a belief. If you're gonna have to pick a belief, why not start becoming aware that there's different beliefs and choose the one that serves your story well? If you had to pick one of those two, if I had to pick, I'm picking over here. I don't get to pick, but I would pick over here. I want this story. But if I grew up in this story, unclean story, if I grew up in that, it's gonna feel difficult. That's where courage comes in this rewriting of life. It's gonna feel like you're abandoning people. You might be doing something wrong. Fear. But this story, truth, who you really are, what's really available to you. You're unloved. You're lovable. You showed up lovable. You're no good. You're broken. You're just fine. You're just fine. There's all sorts of beliefs. We have to be aware that there's belief systems that were given to us that steal so much juice, so much creativity, that if we would stop playing those storylines and use the courage to challenge them and move into new beliefs, real beliefs, we could experience who we really are. We're gonna get to your bird. We're gonna wrap this up because we're running. We gotta wrap this up, but let's do this. We're gonna get to your bird. I want you to do one more imagery thing with your mind. Think of your favorite redhead besides me, your favorite redhead of all time. It can be somebody who's not famous or not naturally redheaded. We're not gonna check roots. It can be Lucille Ball, Conan O'Brien, Jessica Rabbit, your favorite redhead. Most people know a couple things about redhead. One, we've all been called the same name or names, and you keep us out of the sun. We don't do well in the sun for too long. I want to tell you a story about a young lady, a redhead, who had a dream like most people had a dream, and she thought in order for her to achieve her dream, she needed to hide pieces of herself and give up the most important part of herself. Her name is Ariel, and she's a mermaid. You might have seen the movie, The Little Mermaid. She falls in love with this guy, and she thinks the only way that he's gonna like her is if she hides the tail. Part of what makes her her. She's willing to trade the tail, sign a contract to give up her voice to Ursula, this person in the story. She gives up her voice. She doesn't have to have the tail. She can have the legs and the guys, what she's promised. She's promised the story. She's promised the story she thinks she wants. I never noticed how intense that contract was until I went and saw that play live, Little Mermaid. And as soon as Ursula breaks out this contract that says, I will give you legs if you give me your voice, the kids are like, no, don't sign it. Don't give up your voice. Most of us are taught at a very early age, maybe not to give it all the way up, but don't use the whole thing. Use your inside voice. A lot of us are not given the opportunity to express that voice. And we're told that if we would change a certain thing about us, then we would have the story that we want. She was told if she gave up the tail, she could have the story. You give up the voice, everything's yours. But that's not true. That's not true for us either. It's not a good story. And that's not a good story if I stop there, because it's not done being written yet. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine. He's on Saturday. He's serving 20 years to life in prison, and he finished his first book. And I told him how proud of him I was and how good it was, and it's good. It is really good. And I told him that, and he said, I said, I can hear your voice in here. I know your voice, and I can hear it in your writing. I can hear your whole authentic voice. You're using it. And he said, I agree. I think I found my voice, and I'm using it. He said, what I need your help with, Trav, is I need you helping me be confident in it, because I know why he needs help being confident in it. Because we all do. Because we're all told to use your voice, to be who you are, but just not all the way. When I started living my life, it was not like everybody was like, yeah, be all the way you, Trav. I was told very straightforward, we missed the old Trav and the stuff that he was doing, the way that he was acting. That wasn't me. And you need to be all of you in order to face all the things you're gonna have to face. To embrace the things that you're gonna have to embrace, you need to figure out a way to embrace all of you. That is a good journey. And you can find it through writing. You can find ways to express yourself and become aware of yourself and your beliefs in these practices. You can find a way to put all these emotions on paper. Paper is always available to you. Paper always wants to help you with that. You can put all the feelings that you aren't comfortable sharing with the world quite yet, the ones they're not comfortable hearing, like rage and pain and anger and sadness. You can get practice putting it on paper, and then you can get practice saying it out loud from the throat. Let's go back to your bird as the cicadas sing to us a little bit. That bird that you had, that was having that snack. That bird that you made a certain color. Pretend this. Imagine this, create this with me. Create that that I have that bird in my hands, that it's here, and see it. And say that I came to you with that bird and I said, this is the last one, forever. Never gonna be another bird like this on this planet Earth ever. I need you to take care of it. It's got a busted wing. It's pretty bad. That wing is pretty damaged. This wing over here that's a good wing. It can get around on this wing. If you could help it heal that wing, it would do a little bit better. I need you to do something else too, is this bird stopped singing, and it has this original song that can only be sung in one lifetime by this bird. Would you mind helping find this bird its voice again so it can sing that song? If I gave you that bird and that was a true story, you would protect it. You would find other people that could help you heal that bird and find its voice. You would research that bird and find out what foods it needed and what healing it needed, and you would protect it. You wouldn't let people around it who didn't deserve to be around it anymore, because there's only one of it. And the people who do deserve to be around it, they're going to celebrate that bird with you. You're endangered. There's only one of you. You're it. This place needs you, and you are worthy of the healing that you need to have the life that you can enjoy. My sister had nothing but love and belief for me. And if you need to borrow some from us, if you need to borrow belief today, if you need some courage, and if you need some love, why don't you borrow it from us as long as you need it? As long as you need it. And then when you find your own and you find more, there's a lot of people out there who could use it. So give it to them too. I know I'm running out of time. I just want to give you something. I just want to give you one thing. I wrote a book. All the books have a theme. And this one has a bird theme, winged words, and I want to give it to you. There's no attachment to it. I'm not going to get your email or anything from you. While this conference is going on, while this NAMI conference is going on, this book is for free on Kindle today and tomorrow. It's free. You don't have to give me anything. It's a gift from me and my sister and my kid and all the other endangered winged humans out there. Hopefully there's some medicine in there for your journey. And I hope you find all sorts of medicine during this NAMI conference that is good medicine, that's real medicine. And thank you for allowing me to share some story with you, and keep telling your story. Only believe true ones. We all look forward to hearing your story.